Good day, everyone, and welcome to the T&T Podcast. This is Temi Tola.
And this is your co-host, Story.
This episode will be about the first part of 1984, also known as Book 1.
1984, which was written by George Orwell, is a terrifying vision of a totalitarian future in which everything and everyone is enslaved to a tyrannical regime.
So, let's begin. So, in the beginning of the book, which is chapter 1, we learn about the main character of the story, which is Winston Smith, who lives in a totalitarian society governed by a figure known as Big Brother. We see him in one of the Victory Mansions, which is it's funny that's called a Victory Mansion, despite the fact that it's actually poor, like a poor, low-level housing arrangement. So, the main party of the government is INGSOC, INGSOC, and basically it's this one ruling party that controls everything and everyone in the society, which is taking place in London. So we see another thing as we go throughout the day, we learn about this thing called the 2 minutes of hate. The 2 minutes of hate is basically a period of time where the masses of people, usually in the outer party, get together and scream words like hateful words against a leader of the rebellion known as Goldstein. We don't know if Goldstein was created by the government or an actual rebellion, but I don't think that was the point of the story. It just showed that the hive-mindedness of the people in this society. So, any thoughts, Tariq?
Honestly, personally, about the 2-minute hate, when I was reading the story, I found it interesting on how it was almost as like they influenced people to agree with the party using the 2-minute hate. How they literally just directed all type of, I guess, uh, doubt and hatred and from the party, but like directed it to people who were anti the party, which helped bring a more of a, I guess you could say, nationalistic, even though it really isn't a nation, but more love towards them. And I feel like Goldstein was the right manifest. It was a nice creation that the party made for the people of the society to agree with. Personally, Goldstein isn't real. I mean, I feel like he's really not, because I feel like the people were too dull-minded to actually rebel. I mean, there of course were some people who were like, this against. I mean, like truly rebel, like the way they described Goldstein to actually be part of the party, and he like disobeyed Big Brother, and then like he went out into hiding. Like that whole story seems too elaborate to be real, and I feel like Goldstein is not a real person. So yes, in regards to your question, I feel like Goldstein was a made-up imagination for the people to find something to hate, so that no one would hate the party. It was basically the party's, I guess you could say, scapegoat for all types of anger towards anything in the society.
Yeah, and to add on to what you said, all the points that Goldstein makes, you would think that if like the party would try to stop a rebellion, they would allow the rebel's leader to be shown full screen, wide up display to everyone, able to show his ideas to everyone else. So and all the points that he makes are things that people already know, which already like it puts into your mind like, if he's a rebellious leader and he's trying to bring change, why is he bringing the same points over and over again? That's just what I think. Alright, so moving on. So we learned that Winston works in one of the ministries. It's called the Ministries of Truth. And basically what his job is to remove any facts that go against Big Brother and help support the cause of INGSOC. So this includes things like statistics, reports, war leaders, basically anything that would possibly go against Big Brother will be removed. And this like another reason that shows like the power of Big Brother and like INGSOC. It's like no matter what they do, even what they say now goes against what they said previously. No matter what they do, the people believe it. And this is the idea of one of the main points of the story, which is doublethink. And it's basically thinking against of what you think. An example of this would be like, say when you're in your car, right, and you forget to you're trying to find your keys, right? So you're like, did I put it in the cup holder, right? Did I put it in the cup holder? Sure, he's like, yeah, I put it in the cup holder. That's where I always put it every day. But then in the back of your mind, you have this sense that's like, maybe I actually didn't put it in the cup holder. And that's the idea of double think, except like expanded 1,000 times. Where it's like the people question themselves on what they think compared to Big Brother, and it's kind of hard to like have your own opinion on things because like if everything and everyone around you is saying one thing and you're the only one that you think that you're the only one that knows that thinks something else, you're just like maybe I'm wrong. This is how Inkstock is able to control the people and make them quote unquote slaves.
I'm sorry. I don't think I'm really. Did I cut in? I'm sorry.
No. Continue.
All right, because I don't care. So basically, what that reminds me of? It reminds me of a more collectivistic idea. So collectivism is basically the idea of like a society should work as a group, as a I guess collective. It's not like no I, it's more of a we. It's kind of communistic. Like we work as a whole group. So you're not allowed to really think for yourself. You're supposed to think as a group. And this, I think this idea was like expressed well during 1984 of how as you just said, double think, and it was like kind of scary for some people to like kind of speak up on how they felt, because they were afraid of not everyone else having the same opinion as you. And that's kind of what collectivism is. That's how you keep everyone in check. Because you're supposed to have the same opinion as all of your brethren, all of your peers, co-workers, whatever term you want to call it. You're supposed to have the same ideas as them, or else then you're just, I guess going against the law. It's a transgression.
Yeah.
If you don't think as everyone else. So, personally, I feel like, I think one of the major themes or philosophies that could use is not the philosophy of Orwell himself, but the idea that the party was using was collectivism. If you kept everyone to think as a group, no one's going to think as an individual.
Yeah.
And, I'm not rooting for the party. I'm all in favor of rebellion and an excellent dystopian future. However, good job for the party, personally, I would say. I mean, it's a good way to keep everyone in check.
So you're against the party, but at the same time for the party?
All I'm saying is, I have to give a nice little round of applause to Big Brother and his method of keeping the people fair or in check.
Right. So I want to move on to talk about really quickly the slogan and add on to what we're talking about doublethink. The main slogan of doublethink and the party is war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. Like it's kind of weird. It's kind of like weird how they war. Like it's basically contrasting each other. War is peace, which is like two opposite things. War is like fighting each other, but peace is like calm, unification. So division and unification. Freedom is slavery. You can already see like the contrast between those two. And ignorance is strength. Those are like some weird things. That's a weird slogan, and I don't. It's just weird. We'll talk about it later on in book 2 as it elaborates more into it. But for now, I just want to put that into your brain. This whole slogan that the party pushes as its main agenda. So another thing I want to talk about is the 4 ministries of the party, which is the Ministry of Truth, which is the one that Winston works in, the Ministry of Love, the Ministry of Peace, and the Ministry of Plenty. So these sound like nice little happy names, right? But in fact, they're actually the opposite of what they mean. It's kind of ironic if you think about it. The Ministry of Truth, it actually creates propaganda to help keep the masses in check and like help support the truth of the party. The Ministry of Plenty actually involves in creating rations and planning economic depletion, basically like shortages and stuff like that. And the Ministry of Peace is actually like the military, and you think, wait, the military being the Ministry of Peace. I guess you could say that the Ministry of Peace keeps peace. It's still kind of weird to call it the Ministry of Peace. It's about war. And the ministry, and the final one is the Ministry of Love, which is we'll delve into the Ministry of Love soon. But for now, just know that if you look at the other three trends, you will know that Ministry of Love will obviously be the opposite of what it actually means. So let's move on. So
wait, can I just touch onto the ministries real quick?
Yeah. Just make sure not to talk about Ministry of Love.
I would honestly say that again.
Make sure not to talk about the Ministry of Love too much, because like we want to talk about it later on.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I really loved Orwell's idea of how he basically the ministries. I'm pretty sure by the definitions that my coworker Tematola gave, they're all opposites of what they do. You know, the truth spreads propaganda, therefore they're technically spreading propaganda are lies. Even though they sometimes are truth, but it's like heavily twisted into an idea. I mean, a lot of propaganda can be considered a lie. Whereas, you know, the Ministry of Peace, they're, as Timmy said himself, like they wage in war. Like, how is that peaceful?
Yeah.
And then the Ministry of Plenty, you know, they're playing shortages, so that's not really plentiful of resources. You know, they're more shortening the resources that are given. And with that being said, I want to really touch into the Ministry of Plenty, because this really got to me thinking when I read the story. Why do you think that they would plan economic shortages?
Well, I think they would plan economic shortages because if you plan basically if you have too much of something, like for example, if you have too much food too much food, that would be a good example. The people, if the people have too much food, they'll see like, what's the point of even working if like I already have a constant supply of food and resources to keep me alive. You know, there's less incentive to work and to be productive, and it'll always keep the people in check and just like not starving, but not too full where they become lazy. So it's on that middle ground between lazy and starving. We're unable to do anything because you're starving, and unwilling to do something because like you already have everything for you. So like it's a balance basically. So I think that's why they plan rations.
I can understand that, but honestly, wouldn't it have been smarter to like let these people they get food supplies? I mean, like kind of like care packages, I guess you could say. You get a nice drop off for food that will leave you for the entire week. You know, make everyone nice, happy, and like full, and all of that. And I mean, I can understand how that would make people lazy, I guess you could say, because they think they'll just take it for granted. However, why not just force people to work? I mean this by saying, like, if you don't work, you don't clock into work by the time you're supposed to, you get a strike. 3 strikes and you're out. But since this is like a really collectivistic society, out will probably result or prison. So I felt like that would be a better, but I could totally understand your logic and reasoning for this happening.
Well, as you were saying about the 3-strike rule, they don't have like 3 strikes rule, where it's like not exactly that, but they do have punishment for not doing work, because like you're basically, if you don't come into work, then first I'll be thinking like maybe he's plotting something, and that plotting something is basically not thought crime, basically a crime because you're not allowed to plot against the government. So I feel like it's like an unspoken type of rule. It's like, all right, yeah, you go to work. If you don't go to work, then you'll see what happens, type of thing. You know?
Okay, yeah. I mean, you're right. I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Let's talk about. Yes, let me move on to further into the chapter. So you learn about Mr. O'Brien, which is a member of the Inner Party, and it's during the 2 minutes of
my social studies teacher.
Yeah, like social studies teacher. So Mr. O'Brien, Mr. Winston meets Mr. O'Brien during the 2 minutes of hate. He doesn't beat him, but like he makes eye contact with Mr. O'Brien, and Winston believes that the look in Mr. O'Brien's eyes tells him that Mr. O'Brien is supporting Winston and had the exact same views as Winston. This rebellious, go against the Ixoc, go against Big Brother, down with Big Brother type of thing. So, and before we talk about delve deeper into Miss O'Brien's character, let's talk about Julia, which is the character that Winston sees as he's going to 2 minutes of hate, and he has this weird, hateful sexual desire for Julia. It's kind of weird how they play it. It's like at one hand he's like, oh, I hate how she looks. She looks like she will rat me out in a moment without hesitation. But at the same time, I want to do things we can't talk about on the podcast, and it's just weird. So yeah, and I think
Personal.
oh, we like to go. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah. I honestly think that the Julia character could have been introduced a little bit better. Maybe because I might be a little too young to comprehend how adult life really is. But in
Yeah.
my opinion, I find it kind of weird on how Winston was all like, I just want to I believe he said he wanted to burn her at the stake, actually. And because of how she was too beautiful, and all beautiful women lie, and they're deceiving, and they're evil, I guess you quote that from Juice WRLD. And
Weird plug, but
so
okay.
basically, I honestly don't like that. I don't like how you could like really not like someone, but on the other hand, you really want to have sexual intercourse. It was weird to me, and honestly, I feel like it should have been more of a Winston just was trying to have the sexual intercourse instead of all the love and hate type thing. Like you love her, but you really don't love her type thing. And I just find it really weird. And also for O'Brien, honestly, all I want to say is looks can be deceiving, and I just want to give a lesson to our viewers. Even though Ms. Gartner, you might be the only one listening to, but I would say to just watch how you look at people, and don't assume how when they look back to you, that's what you think they want. Yeah. Almost, if you can get what I'm saying, like
so don't judge a book by its cover.
Go for a more verbal. I think you should go for a more verbal approach for certain things than a visual.
Yeah.
I understand that Winston couldn't really talk because of the telescreens that were everywhere. But I feel like
yeah.
Just watch what you're doing.
All right, so let's move on because like we stalled a little bit. Let's talk about the ending of the chapter. So in this chapter, or in this section really, we learned that Winston has a book, a journal basically. And journals are illegal, though not outright said. It's illegal because expressing your thoughts is known as a thought crime. And I'll talk about thought crime just in a bit because it's actually really interesting, really kind of messed up. So Winston had this illegal journal where he writes his thoughts into this book, and then he writes in the book like his hatred and sexual desire for Julia, which is the person we talked about previously, and his intellectual attraction for Mr. O'Brien. And yeah, so he knows that having this book is punishable by death. So this is already introducing Winston's rebellious nature. Because he already knows that if he gets caught, he'll be either punishable by death or at least be stuck in the labor camp for the next 25 years of his life. So, yeah, and I want to mention this too. In the end, which is like really the nail in the coffin, he writes big and bold, down with Big Brother. So, yeah. And a little quick thought I forgot to mention. In every Victory Mansion home, which is like their like apartment basically, there's like this big telescreen, which is like it's this big screen that shows a picture of Big Brother, which is watching you. That's this meaningless saying, Big Brother is watching you, because kind of is.
Bertha is watching you.
Yeah, like no matter where you go, he will always be watching you. They never say if he actually is or not, but like, why take the chance? And it's expressed early on that like people get taken away from their homes in the middle of the night randomly because of something called thought crime. Thought crime is basically thinking of doing something wrong which is not allowed. Imagine that. Like you think of doing something wrong and you could be punished of it. Everyone has that.
I say that's fair.
What?
I say that's fair. Okay, listen.
Let me hear this.
If there's a murderer, if there's a murder, and let's say it's illegal in that country for you to murder people, as it should. If you think about murdering someone, you should be arrested. Personally, I understand it's a really complex thing, whether he's joking or serious, but I feel like you gotta put stuff to an end before they escalate. You know what I mean? Kind of like a situation we had earlier with Iran. I don't want to get a little bit too political, but as far as I know and my knowledge of what happened, Donald Trump he assassinated General Soleimani before he was able to commit a terroristic act that he predicted may happen, because General Soleimani had gone to many terrorist sites before.
Right.
Like before the assassination.
Yeah.
And so, and I guess he got killed because we didn't want to risk him converting to a terrorist and doing something to America. And with that being said, I think thoughts are very meaningful, and certain thoughts should be punished. I don't think about murdering anyone, and I feel like I shouldn't go to jail. But,
all right, that's.
I don't know what to tell me. Some days I think he wakes up and you might want to kill someone. Who knows? You do you, Tammy. But
all right, coworker Tariq. I just want to say, like, that's one way to look at it. But you're taking it to the streams of killing people. Let me like tile it down to make it like a little more relatable. So let's say you walk on the street and you just see something on the floor, like a $20 bill on the floor. You see who dropped it, right? And maybe you're like a good person, and you think like, all right, maybe I'm gonna take this $20 and give it to the person right in front of me. But that little thing in the back of your mind, that subconscious, is always like, maybe I should. What will happen if I took it? What will happen if I just pocketed this $20 and went my way? Of course, you normally wouldn't. I hope, but now imagine doing the same thing and getting punished for thinking about taking the $20. That's basically what is thought crime. And another example of this be, you can get punished. Falls under thought crime. You could be punished for talking in your dreams. So maybe if you talk in your dreams, you say, "Oh, down with Big Brother," silently in your dreams, you can be punished for that. Something that is subconscious, something that you can't even control. Maybe like it's just something completely random that you don't even agree with, but you accidentally said in your dreams because you can't control what you say in your dreams. Like, how would you feel about that? Do you still think that crime is fair?
Better hope you don't talk in your sleep. Better hope you don't talk in your sleep. That's all I gotta say.
All right, Tariq. So obviously, this is the first thing that we cannot agree on, but let's move on. All right. So, we learn about in the next chapter. We learn about next section. Really, we learn about the pros and like the different class sections of the party, of this whole government. So I just want to go over it real quick. There are three sections of the party. At the very top, which is like the 1% in our society, is like the inner party. These are the people that governs the controls INSOC, like the heads of the ministries and stuff like that. The outer part. Next, we have the outer party, which would be like middle class. Upper, lower middle class. This is what Winston is a part of. Miss O'Brien's a part of the inner party, by the way. Just get a perspective. Winston is part of the outer party. He's an average, everyday worker. He just goes along his life. He isn't poor, but he isn't rich. He's just there. And then the pros are at the lowest. and the lowest makes up usually makes in a society the lowest class usually makes up the most of the like as you go up the pyramid the amount of people in each class decreases. But in 1984, the class of like the amount of people, the difference in the amount of people in each class is immense. 85% of the party is made up by pros. 85%. That's unbelievable. And these pros are basically like the low class. The book describes them as dumb, stupid people. Like, and these are the people that the party doesn't really care about. The party really focuses on the outer and inner party, because those are really the two parties that they focus on. Well, the inner party is the government, but still, the government usually focus on the outer party because those are the people that can actually they band together, they make a change. The pros are too stupid to even do anything, so they don't care about anything. So the party doesn't really focus on them. So Winston he sees the pros and he thinks that the oh hold on, sorry about that, we had a little technical difficulties. As I was saying, Winston believes that the stability of the party relies on the pros, and if the pros are upset and they decide to band together, they will be able to take over INSOC and the government and Big Brother. So Winston believes that if he could basically use the pros to his advantage, maybe he could start a rebellion. But then he realizes shortly, after like walking around the pro area, that these people are way too dumb to even realize or do anything about it. It'll take forever to do anything. Literally, a rocket destroyed one of the sections of their towns, and then they went by the day like nothing happened. They're like, oh, just normal Tuesday. And yeah, any thoughts about that, Tariq?
Uh, Personally, about the pros, I don't think they're necessarily dumb.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like it's more of an issue of what they believe almost. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like they just believe that everything's dandy and happy and, we could go about life. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily think, they have like a dumb in terms of like a mental issue that makes them pros.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that, they believe more in the party, well, the inner party than anyone else. They believe more in inside than anyone else.
Yeah.
So,
They're
I
ignorant. Would you say
yeah,
that they're
they're
ignorant?
no. I wouldn't say ignorant because that's like kind of opinionated.
Mm.
If you read the story and you're in favor of what the party actually advocates for,
Yeah.
then I guess you would say the pros are doing the right thing. They're
Oh,
living their life
I,
as the party tells
yeah.
them to.
Now that you put it like
But
that, I see that. I
if you
see
feel
that.
otherwise, I think you would make the claim that pros are. So I guess it depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, I guess I understand that. Now that you put it that way, I understand that. Yeah, I would say they're ignorant. It depends on how you look on it, like you said. So I just want to move back a bit because I forgot to talk about this. I want to talk about Syme. Is that Syme? He's basically like a dictionary writer for the new edition of Newspeak. Newspeak is basically a language made by Ingsoc, and what Newspeak does is it has so little words that are used to describe things, and the purpose of it is that if you have so little words to describe certain things, you're unable to voice your own what you want to voice, and by that fact, you're able to limit the you'll be able to control the people more and basically limit the chance for like rebellion or ideas being spread. Because for example, if you like imagine trying to talk to someone like, oh, how this teacher is bad by saying hi and bye. Like that would be impossible. So that's basically what Newspeak is trying to do. Their end goal is to make it so that the only thing you can only say things that like support the party. Like and like some example of the words is good and ungood. Instead of saying good and bad, I say good and ungood. Un un thing. They don't say bad or like or mal I don't know. That's basically what I have so far. I just went off a tangent. Yeah. Alright, going back to the main story. Um Winston visits a little shop called owned by Mr. Charlington, the shop owner, and Winston finds a bunch of little artifacts that they did. I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to say it. Give me a second. He finds a bunch of little artifacts basically, and Winston thinks about renting a room in the shop because it doesn't have like a camera, the telescreen that records him. So he's thinking about renting the room in the shop in order to write in his diary in peace without the threat of being watched. And here he sees Julia spying on him as he's walking home. So he wonders, Vincent wonders whether Julius is a spy, and thinks about trying to kill her in an alley with a rock. And he eventually like decides not to do it. Any thoughts?
Uh, Personally, the Julia idea, I get it. With someone who's as rebellious as Winston, I would, want to cut off anyone who would try to get in my way, or at least try to not stop what I'm doing, but try to expose. But I would like to go mainly towards Winston's, I guess, flaws in terms of how he examined the shop. How he was like, he walked in and there was no telescreen. Yes, so he thought, oh yeah, maybe I can write my diary. But there was a poster in place of where the telescreen should be. A poster of, I think it was called St. Clement's Church.
Yeah, St. Clement's Church.
Yes.
And there's a little song about it. But I don't know about it. But this is a song. Alright, continue. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah. And with that being said, right? Winston knew, because it was stated earlier in the story, that each private and public room, even bathrooms, had telescreens, or at least any type of monitoring.
Yep.
That could make sure that audio and visuals were at least picked up. Right? But he walked into the shop and was like, there's no telescreen, so they can't hear or see. I think that was wrong on his part, because, how do you know? Because they make sure that everywhere is monitored. Why would they just be like, you know what, this shop, with a spare room in the room, or like in like upstairs, I guess you could say, like there's a spare room that was up for rent, where people could come and just rent it out. Why would they not monitor anything happening to that shop? Well, especially with the party being very strict.
Well,
very against anyone who's anti-party. I feel like that's, Winston's bad judgment.
Well, in Winston's defense, it is in the Prole area. Like, there's a specific area that the Proles live in, and it was pretty like the whole area looked already ring dingle and stuff like that. And there were no telescreens in anywhere. Like, Winston stopped by at a bar to try to get information from one of the poles. It didn't work, obviously, but he noticed that there were no telescreens. And like, from what I'm aware of, and this shop is nearby the pole area, so I'm assuming that he's like, oh, this is probably a pole shop. Maybe if I walk around, maybe there's like no telescreens, because there are no telescreens in the pole area either. So in his defense, I would say like maybe like he just thought, oh yeah, this is a nice shop, because like why would there be a telescreen for the pros? You know what I'm saying?
I can understand that, but I mean, like, still, I feel like the party would have still made some type of precautions, because, again, in everyone's eyes, the pros are dumb and stupid. They don't understand, right?
Yeah.
So, and with that logic, couldn't anyone just encourage them to rebel?
Well, it's not dumb and stupid as in like they'll take in any information. They're dumb and stupid as in like they don't question the authority. It was stated like when Winston went to the bar, he talked to one of the pros, and in this bar, wait, hold on 1 second. Again, sorry for the technical difficulties. We just had a little playback on someone's end, Tariq. Anyway, so in the bar, Winston talks to one of the pros about the old life in Oceania. Oceania being a place that this whole story takes place in. And one of the pros talks about how in the past it was like a capitalistic society where it's like it didn't say capitalistic specifically, but Winston says that oh yeah, this is example of capitalism because like the party teaches to the people that capitalism, which is like the prior way of government, was wrong and evil and stuff like that. And from the story, Winston like is confused because like he was expecting for the post to be like, oh, capitalism wasn't so bad, but at the same time he was talking about, oh yeah, we had to do this, we had to like basically kneel for the men with the money. So he started to question whether or not he was right about the party. I don't know where I was going with this. I just wanted to put that out there. This is yeah. And let's talk about one more thing before we end this episode of the podcast. I want to talk about Winston's previous love, which is give me a second, Catherine. So Catherine, it wasn't like they found each other and they love each other. Basically, in soccer, you're assigned a lover. Basically, like you have a like you're assigned a wife, and you're basically the whole point of this isn't for like and the whole point is for love or care, or compassion. It means to produce more children in order to increase the population of the party and produce even more members. So we learned about Catherine from Winston, and Winston hated Catherine, and Catherine hated Winston. Catherine was only the only one to um, um, have sexual intercourse with Winston, only to produce children for the party. Catherine was a devout patriot, nationalist of the party, and that's one thing that Winston hated. And I guess that's why I guess it like explains why Winston kind of had this unbeknownst hate for Julia, because I guess he kind of sees Catherine in Julia, and he loathed Catherine. And we don't know what happened with Catherine. We assume that we assume that she died. I'm not too sure. Yeah. Any thoughts? Any final thoughts?
My final thoughts is, I honestly feel I don't understand. I never got the idea of what happened to Catherine because, as they did say, as you already said, and as the story says, that she was very nationalistic. I guess you could say all she cared about. And Winston made this point before of when they had sexual intercourse. All she really wanted to do was like please the party and like produce children for the party.
Yep.
Not more about her love and sexual desires for Winston. Mm-hmm. And honestly, with that type of idea, I could not see her dying. That's like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I feel like if the idea of like someone killed her or something. But I mean, she doesn't sound like a dumb person. Okay, let me rephrase that. She doesn't sound like someone who's like lacking intelligence.
Yeah.
So like, I don't think she would like just walk off a cliff or something. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, also, I feel like the party wouldn't, like, I guess, assassinate or kill her or make her... Because we also know that the party has a tendency to make people not exist anymore.
Yep, vaporize.
Like, they just wipe them from existence. Yeah, pretty much. And they purge all memory of them, right? Mm-hmm. I thought something like that would happen because she was a very devoted member of the party. Mm-hmm. So, honestly, to this, like, day after finishing the entire book, and I hope not to spoil anything in this entire podcast. But
we're gonna have to soon. But...
yeah, I honestly feel I don't know what happened to Catherine. It's still a mystery. Like I cannot make any assumption what happened. I don't know. It's just I can't. I don't know. Honestly, I keep saying I don't know, but it's truly just it's cryptic. I don't get it. Like you know. It doesn't really make sense on how she would just die, just disappear.
Alright, so sorry to say this, but I did a little cheating on Google. Just type Google up and type "Did Catherine die in 1984?" And I don't know how I didn't remember this. Catherine didn't die, and you were right. It was very unlucky for her to die. She didn't die, but they in fact parted ways, and like because the party doesn't believe in um divorcing. They don't believe in divorcing. So like they just separated and like spread apart. And so we don't know what happened with Catherine. And so yeah, I just want to end it off here. We're running out of time for today's podcast. So tune in next time where we talk about Book 2 of 1984 with Tammy Tola, me, and Tariq. Thank you for watching.
Me. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.